All right. So are you ready to dive into this crazy world of Frank Julius's Blood Dice novel?
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it.
Because it's a wild ride, right?
Yeah.
It's corporate power, international intrigue, kidnapping, and we're going to unpack it all.
Yeah, it's a wild, wild story. I think what really struck me, just starting off the bat here, is how the novel juxtaposes this really luxurious world of the Bahamas, right?
Right.
With this really gritty underbelly of kidnapping, corruption, power plays, like Julius doesn't shy away from showing you the darkness that's just lurking below the surface.
No, he doesn't. And you see that, like, right away with Eldon Davis, right?
Right.
I mean, this is a self-made billionaire.
Oh, yeah.
Could buy and sell the Bahamas, probably. And yet he's totally powerless when it comes to his daughter, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, imagine that. You come home and your wife's been murdered. 6-year-old daughter Kathy is missing.
Just awful.
And as if that's not bad enough, this detail about Kathy's doll, Dixie, being mentioned in the ransom note, like, talk about chilling, right?
Oh, it sends chills down your spine. Just that little detail. That, to me, speaks volumes about the kidnapper. It's like this desire to inflict psychological damage, right? It's not just about the money. It's about breaking Eldon on every single level imaginable.
Yeah. And speaking of breaking Eldon, we've got the FBI coming into the picture.
Yeah, right.
And specifically Agent Miller. And, I don't want to say Miller's incompetent.
Right.
But he seems so outmatched by someone like Eldon.
Well, absolutely, because he's thinking in very traditional terms.
Yes.
And Eldon is playing, like, four-dimensional chess. It's not even on the same scale.
Oh, not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, remember that scene where Eldon's walking Miller through his home security system?
Oh, yeah. Talk about tension.
Oh, my gosh. Talk about dripping with tension.
Every line is dripping with tension. It's like Eldon saying, look, you may have a badge, but in my world, I make the rules.
Right.
And then that little almost throwaway line that he throws in there about his government contracts and his work with classified satellite technology.
Yeah.
He's not just showing off.
No.
He's sending a message like, don't mess with me.
I'm connected.
Exactly. I'm connected and you're in over your head.
And it's not even just the FBI that's in over their head.
Right.
Because the novel takes this really fascinating turn when it brings in Caribbean geopolitics, specifically this island nation of Grenada.
Okay.
And I'll admit, before reading this, if you asked me to point to Grenada on a map, frantic Googling.
Yeah, me too.
But Julius does a really good job of bringing this to life, like showing us how this tiny little nation gets caught in the middle of this much, much bigger game.
Absolutely. And it's kind of that classic struggle, isn't it, between these powerful nations and then these smaller countries that are caught in the crossfire, right?
Right.
You definitely get the sense, even though it's never said outright, that for the U.S., Grenada is not really about friendship. It's about strategic advantage.
Right.
It's about getting a foothold in this region that they consider vital to their interests.
Yeah, it's all about that submarine base, right?
Exactly. It's that submarine base. And it's hinted that this whole treaty, even though it's presented as this mutually beneficial agreement, is really just a power grab by the U.S. to kind of further cement their presence there.
Right. And so how does Eldon Davis fit into all this?
Well, this is where, like, the personal and the political really collide.
Okay.
Right. Because Eldon, with his whole hotel empire, Holiday Jewel hotels and casinos, he is deeply, deeply embedded in the Caribbean economy, so his business interests are totally intertwined with this proposed treaty, which makes him a person of interest.
Right.
Not just for the kidnappers, but now for the U.S. government as well.
Wow.
So you've got the State Department courting him while the FBI is trying to keep him in the dark,
Oh, man.
It's a mess.
Talk about being caught in the middle of something.
Absolutely. Talk about a web of your own making.
Yeah.
It's really something.
It's almost Shakespearean, the way Julius is pulling all these different threads, right?
It really is.
You've got power, ambition, desperation, and just when you think you have a handle on who the players are, boom, he throws Domingo Alvarez into the mix.
Or Ziggy.
As he's known.
Ziggy, yeah.
The head of the Caribbean Hotel and Casino Workers Union.
Right.
And talk about a character who embodies ambition.
Oh, absolutely. He is ruthless. Absolutely ruthless. He will exploit a crisis to get what he wants, to get what he thinks the union deserves.
Yeah.
And this is where all those little details that Julius kind of sprinkles throughout, they start to come into play, right? Like, remember that scene with Eldon's friend Nick, the forensic expert?
Yeah.
He's analyzing the ransom video.
Oh, you mean where he notices that flickering light and that weird movement in the background?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at first you're like, okay, is this just like a detail?
Yeah, like what is going on here?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But those seemingly insignificant details lead to this major breakthrough.
Okay.
Right. Because Nick realizes that the video wasn't filmed in a house, as you'd expect, but on a boat.
Wow.
He connects the flickering light to a lighthouse beacon, the movement to wave patterns.
Oh, wow.
And he's able to pinpoint a specific location on the Florida coast.
Wow. Talk about an aha moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you realize that sometimes the most important clues, they're hidden in plain sight.
Right.
But we're just not paying attention.
We just don't know how to see them.
Exactly. It's like a testament to the power of observation.
Right.
To that idea that even in a world that's saturated with all this fancy technology, sometimes the human eye, trained to look for those things that are out of place.
Right.
That's the most valuable tool we have.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how many times we miss stuff like that in our own lives, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because we're just not paying attention.
Right. Exactly. Scary thought.
Yeah.
But thankfully, Eldon's got Nick in his corner. And speaking of people who are one step ahead, we got to talk about Kimberly Ashton.
Oh, yeah.
The U.S. diplomat stationed in the Bahamas. She's about to throw a wrench in the works.
Oh, she's a fascinating character, Kimberly.
Yeah.
Because she really represents, like, the moral heart of this whole thing, you know?
Right.
She's torn between her duty to her country and her own conscience, and ultimately she has to make this really tough choice.
Right.
Does she follow the rules, or does she do what she thinks is right?
And what she thinks is right is trusting her gut.
Yeah.
And telling Eldon what she knows, even though it means going against her superiors.
Exactly, and it's a game changer, what she reveals.
Right, because she tells Eldon that the FBI, they suspect the Union's involvement.
Right.
But they need him to play along.
Yes.
Sign the treaty, appease Ziggy, keep the whole Caribbean initiative from falling apart.
Right, they're willing to gamble with this child's life.
Right.
To secure their own goals, you know? Like, classic case of...
the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few.
It's that age-old dilemma.
Right.
You know? And Julius doesn't let us off the hook. He's making us confront that.
Right, exactly.
That sometimes even good people in power can get blinded by the bigger picture.
Totally. And Eldon sees right through it, right?
Oh, yeah.
They pawn their game.
Yeah.
His daughter's life is a bargaining chip. And it fuels him, right?
Absolutely.
He can't trust the authorities. He's got to do this himself.
Yeah, he's got to take matters into his own hands.
So he assembles this team.
Right, this unlikely group of allies.
Billy, his pilot friend.
Right.
Felix, his business partner.
Right.
And Kimberly, the diplomat who's gone rogue.
Yeah, they are an alliance born out of desperation.
Right.
But they have this shared purpose that binds them together.
Right, like modern-day knights on a quest. But their armor is their intellect.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Right.
Yeah.
And their weapon is their sheer will, their determination to get Kathy back.
And their quest takes them to the heart of the Bahamas.
Right. Such a great setting.
Oh, Julius uses it masterfully. It's not just a backdrop. It's like its own character.
Right.
All these islands, hidden coves, beautiful but dangerous.
It's very easy to get lost, literally and figuratively.
Absolutely. And that's the challenge, right?
Right.
They're looking for a ghost, chasing shadows, and the clock is just ticking away.
And the union contract deadline is looming. Talk about pressure.
Oh, yeah. The stakes just keep getting higher.
So much pressure.
Every decision could have these massive repercussions.
Right. And just when it seems like they have nothing, a single name emerges. Jason Garrity.
Right. From a random marina attendant.
And it just opens up this whole other level to the story.
It's incredible how Julius does that, you know? He takes these seemingly insignificant details and he weaves them into this much larger tapestry.
Yeah.
So it's not just about a kidnapping anymore.
Right.
It's clear that Jason Garrity is connected to this network, right? Human trafficking, God knows what else.
Right. There's something much darker at play.
Exactly. And it adds this whole other layer of urgency to Kathy's disappearance.
So it's not just about saving her. It's about exposing this underbelly.
Exactly. This corruption that just seems to go on and on and on.
And the deeper they dig, the more they realize just how deep this thing goes.
Like this rabbit hole. Right.
Right. And remember when Billy... he discovers the boat.
Oh, yes.
The Easy Living.
Easy Living, right? Such a harmless name.
Right, exactly. I thought that was strange.
Yeah, and that's what tips Billy off.
Right.
He's like, wait a minute, this doesn't add up.
Right.
The boat was originally called the Sharker.
Right.
Someone went to a lot of trouble to change that.
Right. It makes you think that Ziggy might not even be the top of the food chain here.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of Julius's writing.
Yeah.
Just when you think you've figured it out, he pulls back the curtain and there's another layer, you know?
Right. There's always more to the story.
Right. Exactly.
And it's that easy living that leads them to Conch Island.
Yes,
Yeah.
where they believe Kathy is being held.
And the tension is just palpable.
Oh, it's so intense.
It's like they're so close to finding Kathy.
So close, but they're walking into the lion's den.
Outnumbered, outgunned.
Yeah, it's like this ticking time bomb.
I know.
Will they find her in time?
Oh, it's like you could barely breathe reading those last few chapters.
It's edge of your seat.
Yeah.
And just when you think they're going to, get a break, get ahead,
Right.
something else happens.
Oh, yeah. Julius loves to throw in those curveballs.
Oh, he keeps you guessing the whole way through. And it's not just the kidnappers they're dealing with. It's like these shadowy figures
Right.
in the U.S. government.
Pulling strings.
Pulling strings, yeah.
Oh, it's like fighting a hydra, like you were saying.
It really is.
You cut off one head and 2 more grow back.
Yeah. And speaking of fighting back, Kimberly really steps up in this last part, doesn't she?
Oh, yeah. She's not messing around.
No, she's done playing games.
I love that she confronts CIA Director Amber
Oh, yeah.
head on at the treaty signing in Grenada, no less.
Bold move.
That's a power move right there.
Absolutely, she's not afraid.
And the way Julius writes that scene,
Oh, it's electric.
so much tension.
Yeah, you can just feel the sparks.
And of course, we have
Yeah.
to talk about Eldon's showdown with Ziggy.
Oh, yeah, that was intense.
I mean,
You know things are about to get real when Eldon starts playing Ziggy at his own game.
right, like, let me tell you what I know.
Exactly. Let me tell you what I know about your little treaty.
And it's genius, right?
Yeah.
Because Eldon's not just trying to save his daughter, he's trying to expose this whole thing.
Right, the hypocrisy,
Right.
the lies.
And then there's that whole climax on Conch Island.
Oh, man, my heart was racing.
You think, oh, I don't even know what I would do.
You just want them to find Kathy.
Yes.
But the stakes are so high.
And you've got Damon First, the journalist Kimberly brings in.
Oh, yeah, he's the wild card.
Right, like, can he get the story out?
Will anyone believe him?
Or will he just disappear too?
It makes you think.
Right, like, how often does this happen in the real world?
All the time, probably.
And what about Eldon and Kimberly, right?
Oh, yeah. What happens to them?
They went through so much together.
They did.
I need to know. But Julius leaves us hanging a bit.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? But I like it.
I do too. It makes you think.
Like, can it ever go back to their old lives after all that?
It makes you realize, like, how resilient we are as people.
Right. We go through these crazy, intense things, but we find a way to keep going.
Exactly. So, what are some things we can take away from this whole wild ride?
Well, for me, it's a reminder to question everything.
Oh, yeah.
Don't just accept things at face value. Dig a little deeper.
Right, because things are not always what they seem.
Exactly. And sometimes the biggest threats, they're not the ones we can see,
Right. It's the stuff happening behind closed doors.
Exactly.
But even with all that darkness, there's still hope.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what Eldon and Kimberly and Billy, they really show us that even when everything's falling apart, we can find strength in each other.
The power of connection.
Exactly. The power of human connection.
Well, that was quite the deep dive.
Yeah, it really was.
For all of you listening, if you want to explore the world of power, intrigue, and it's a really good story.
Oh, yeah. It's a page turner.
Pick up Frank Julius's Blood Dice novel. You won't regret it. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.